The story follows a blacksmith who sells his handmade ironware, such as shields, armors, and swords, and earns a lot of money from it. He sells his weapons to the kingdom of Cairo during a time of endless wars. After the war ends, he is rewarded with the position of Moron in the kingdom. Years later, he becomes the owner of the land, and the story moves on to focus on his son, Roman. As Roman listens to this story from an old man, his servant becomes confused as to why he is listening to his own story, as everyone in the kingdom already knows it. The story then shifts to a few hours earlier, when the old man informs Roman that he is the eldest son of the Dmitri family and that the kingdom of Cairo is located on the Salamander continent. Roman also learns that the world called Moron does not exist in this world. His servant believes Roman is acting strange due to drug use, as he assumes that is what wealthy kids do. He reminds Roman that his fiancée, the lady of the Lawrence family, may be visiting soon and urges him to show more manners and elegance. However, Roman orders his servant to bring him the eldest living person in the land, as understanding this land is more important to him than seeing his fiancée. The servant follows Roman's orders and brings him the eldest living person in the kingdom. Roman thanks him and tells him he will be rewarded later. Our protagonist soon discovers that in this world, his name is Roman Dmitri, but according to him, he should be Baek Jung-hyuk, who lived fiercely in a world called Moron and later died peacefully. This is when Roman realizes that even after he died in his previous world, he has been reincarnated into Roman Dmitri's body and sees it as a punishment from the gods for not accepting ascension. However, their conversation is interrupted by the noise of some thugs beating a person. When the servant sees the tattoos on the thugs' arms, he recognizes them as the Blood of Fangs, a group that illegally lends money to people at high interest rates in the kingdom and nearby territories. Roman tries to stop the Blood of Fangs, but his servant, Hans, tries to stop him, warning that they pose a danger to him. Roman then asks Hans to explain the laws of the land. Hans tells him that bad-mouthing the owner of the land is a serious crime and punishable by death. Our protagonist then moves to punish the thugs, as they have broken the most important law in the land. The thugs do not back down and are fully prepared to fight the noble, even though they know he is not the weak Roman they thought he was. A fierce fight starts between Roman and the Blood of Fangs, but Roman easily defeats them all, as he is not the old Roman, he is Baek from Moron, the leader of the heavenly demon sect, who is much stronger than the weak Roman who killed himself in fear of being a representative of war. Later in the story, Roman, our protagonist, remembers that Baek Jung-hyuk was a fierce person who climbed to the top with his overwhelming power, massacring everyone who defied him and became the leader of the heavenly demon sect. Soon after killing the Blood of Fangs, he orders his servant, Hans, to report to the guards what happened. He then despises Roman's body as useless, as his control over ki and its flow in this body is horrible. The person he saved thanks Roman for saving him from the Blood of Fangs, but Roman clarifies that he did not kill them to save him, he simply fulfilled his duty and laws. The boy tells Roman that his family did nothing wrong, but the Blood of Fangs abducted his sisters and begs Roman to save them. He also tells Roman that looking at him reminds him of one of the 4 heavenly kings he met once. After seeing Kevin off, Roman vaguely remembers that this boy, Kevin, is strongly related to him. Soon, Lady Flora of the Lawrence family arrives at the Dimitri's palace to meet Roman. The story then moves back to a few months ago when the Lawrence family suddenly arranges Lady Flora's marriage with Roman Dmitri of the Dmitri family, as they are not in a good financial state. As Lady Flora arrives at the palace, she explains that she was supposed to marry the second son, but she can't marry him as the eldest son, Roman Dmitri, forced her to marry him instead. Since he is the moron of the Dmitri family and not suitable for her, she tells Roman that she can't marry him. But she is shocked when he accepts her denial, as he also thinks that a moron like him can't marry a princess like her and agrees to cancel the marriage. As he leaves to tell his father about the important cancellation of the marriage, Lady Flora stops him. She asks him why he wants to cancel the marriage, as she assumes he wants to marry her, but Roman, still being a Sigma and Giga Chad, leaves saying that she need not to worry as he will take all the blame of breaking the marriage. He also tells her that being a Giga Chad he won't mind getting called a divorced man. When he enters his father's room and tells him about the marriage cancellation, his father shouts at him, telling him about the importance of this marriage to the royal position of the Dmitri family. His father doesn't even believe that his son can do something like that to the Blood of Fangs and tells him that he won't help him further and he will be responsible for his own matters. Hearing this, Roman moves out of the room, saying he will come back only when he can handle them all by himself. As Lady Flora doesn't give Roman any respect, he decides to not give her any respect and started dissing her. He starts asking her not as a moron, but as a fierce king who is a leader, a Chad person focused on his goals. Since she is already anxious due to the engagement topic coming up, he tells her that she doesn't need to indulge any further into his decision and they should move separate paths, minding their own business. Later, Romero Dmitri is drinking too much and his wife tells him to stop. He feels guilty for his behavior towards his son Roman and tells him to save Roman. They need to ask Captain Jonathan, so Romero Dmitri calls a servant to bring Captain Jonathan to his kingdom as per his order. The next day, our protagonist is heading to the Blood of Fangs, but his servant, Hans, tries to stop him. He explains that they are infamous for slaughtering all of their enemies. The two of them then arrive at a restaurant and order some food. Suddenly, Roman gets up from his chair and goes off to investigate on his own, as he doesn't want to put Hans in danger. But Hans denies his statement and tries to go along with him. Roman, somehow, emotionally damages Hans and goes out for further investigation alone, leaving him behind. Later, as he moves onto the street, before anyone from the Blood of Fangs makes a move, he already decodes their strategy. Suddenly, one of the goons from the Blood of Fangs attacks him from behind. In the midst of the fight scene, Hans runs to Captain Jonathan and tells him to save young Master Roman immediately, as he is in big danger. Meanwhile, Roman one-handedly kills the attacker and grabs his knife. He then provokes other members of the Blood of Fangs to try and kill him. Meanwhile, Jonathan and others are laughing over Roman's stupid behavior and despise him as the weakest of the weak. But since it is the order of the king, Captain Jonathan tells the army to get ready and, with Hans, moves out to where Roman is solely fighting the Blood of Fangs. On the other side, the other two members of the Blood of Fangs, being provoked, run to their death trap. Roman kills one of them and leaves the other one. He then tortures him by stabbing a knife into his leg to get some clues out of him. Soon, he went to a bar after getting some clues of keywords used by the members of the Blood of Fangs. He speaks in those keywords, making everyone cautious. He doesn't want to waste a single minute as everyone charges at him. He uses his breathing technique and with his increased body status from the martial arts technique, he kills everyone in the bar single-handedly, leaving only the bartender. Soon, as Hans, his servant, and Captain Jonathan arrives at the bar with his soldiers, they are shocked that young Master Roman Dmitri is capable of doing this. One soldier then informs them that he went out for Lawrence, as before he got a clue from the bartender that the main base of the Blood of Fangs is in Lawrence.
The Fangs, our protagonist Roman left for Lawrence. After an hour of searching, Roman finally found the leader of the goons. He tortured him in an attempt to extract information about their dirty plans. However, the leader refused to talk, even going so far as to sacrifice his own life for the gang. Roman was impressed by the leader's daring attitude, as he believed that people who don't easily open their mouths usually have the most valuable information. Taking it to the next level, Roman showed the leader a photo of his son and threatened to kill him if he didn't cooperate. The leader, however, refused to identify his son and instead, he berated Roman for using his family as bait. Being a noble, Roman knew that it didn't suit him to use such tactics. Nevertheless, through the leader's resistance, Roman came to understand that these guys were heavily indebted to Blood of Fangs, which was why, even though they were not inherently bad people, they had to do as they were told. As the leader of the goons dismisses Roman's threats, Roman makes it clear to him that if he doesn't speak the truth about Blood of Fangs, they will not hesitate to kill his family. He implores the leader to consider taking his side instead. Soon we are shown an old man, presumably a high-ranking member of Blood of Fangs, discussing Roman's capabilities. He expresses his doubt about Roman's ability to kill all the goons and mentions his goal of killing the Dimitris in order to raise their status. However, Roman's sudden change of attitude is a hindrance to achieving his goal. The old man then asks one of his men about Roman's current location and is informed that Roman has left the kingdom. Upon learning that Roman plans to attack their headquarters alone, the old man becomes frustrated and orders his men to gather all their army and begin strategizing to kill Roman Dimitri. He also ordered his men to do whatever it takes to stop Roman to achieve his goal. The old man, consumed by his desire for power and control, decides that the only way to set an example for those who dare to attack Blood of Fangs is to kill Roman and publicly display his dead body in the central plaza. He wants to make sure that everyone knows the consequence of going against them. The story then shifts to a meeting of the king in the Lawrence kingdom, where they are discussing the Borko family's preparations for war against them. One of the officials informs the king that the central government is supporting the Borko family, which will lead to an absolute victory for them. The king is then told that they will have no other choice but to give up their own territory. The king of the Lawrence kingdom refuses to give up their territory at any cost, as their kingdom will cease to exist without their soil. Furthermore, the king knows that if they give up their territory, other kingdoms will take advantage of their vulnerability and attack them, leading to an even worse situation. In this dire situation, they remember the Dimitris. Even though they were commoners at the beginning, they are now the wealthiest in their region. The king thinks that they can seek help from the Dimitris in order to protect their kingdom and its people. The king orders his men to contact the Dimitris and seek their help in this situation. Laura, who had been listening to the conversation between the king and his officials, is hesitant to reveal to her father that she broke off her engagement with the Dimitris. She fears her father's reaction and the possible repercussions. However, as she reflects on her true feelings, she musters up the courage to tell her father about her decision. Just as she is about to do so, a soldier rushes in to inform the king of a sudden visit from Captain Jonathan of the Dimitri family. As the king and his officials were preparing to meet with Captain Jonathan, they were shocked to see a dead body being dragged through the streets. The people were frightened and couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was revealed that the body belonged to the leader of Blood of Fangs, who had been beaten and killed by Roman Dimitri. The leader, in his final moments, remembers how Roman had single-handedly attacked his headquarters and killed his soldiers. The leader then kneels down and begs for his life, offering to become Roman's servant for the rest of his life. But Roman refused the offer and instead, he beats the leader in order to remove the fear of Blood of Fangs from the people. A soldier then informs the king and the other members of the court about Roman dragging the leader of Blood of Fangs to them, as well as the fact that he had executed him in front of everyone. Upon hearing this, the king of the Lawrence kingdom is both shocked and troubled. He orders the soldier to summon Roman Dimitri to speak with him. The king questions Roman about his reason for violently killing the leader of Blood of Fangs and entering the kingdom without permission. Roman explains that the brutal and violent assault that Blood of Fangs committed against an innocent person left him with no other choice but to take action and execute them all. Hearing everything, secretly Miss Laura whispers to a soldier and asks him why they brought Roman Dimitri to visit her father. She's curious to know the reason behind this sudden visit of Roman Dimitri and what her father wants from him. The soldier explains that Roman Dimitri had single-handedly taken down the leader of Blood of Fangs and his men, which had been causing trouble for the kingdom for a long time. The king wants to have a word with him, possibly to offer him a reward or a position of power in the kingdom for his bravery. On the other side, the king is furious with Roman for his insolence, as he does not have the authority to execute anyone without the king's permission. Roman, however, bravely defends his actions by stating that the lack of attention and action from the king and his officials towards the matter of Blood of Fangs left him with no other choice but to take matters into his own hands. The king, understanding the gravity of the situation, decides to close the case by acknowledging that it was a burden for the Lawrence kingdom which Roman cleared out all alone. He promised Roman that he will be rewarded later and sent him off. However, as Roman and Captain Jonathan were returning to the kingdom, Captain asks Roman why he went that far in taunting the king, which could have led the kingdom into danger. Roman explains that he did what he had to do to protect the innocent and to ensure the safety of the kingdom. As the story unfolds, Heavenly Demon imparts some harsh wisdom to his son Beak, telling him that in order to prove himself worthy of becoming king, he must rule over all the people and not fear death, as his father can simply create another son if one were to perish. However, Beak's resolve is put to the test when a man comes along and starts beating him, mocking him for his perceived weakness. Despite his best efforts to defend himself, Beak is badly beaten and left to nurse his injuries. In the present world, Roman is resting in the bath, cursing his own body for its frailty. Heavenly Demon knows that it would be dangerous for him to just wander around without understanding the customs of this new world, and decides to defy the body of Moron, as being Roman is proving to be too tiring. Captain Jonathan arrived at King Romero's chambers, bearing news of his son, Roman. The captain informed the king that Roman had undergone a sudden transformation, displaying acts of great bravery. King Romero couldn't help but compare his son to a sore thumb, born during his most trying times and having experienced the extremes of life. Memories of Roman's childhood flooded back to the king when he was just a mere commoner, and would give his candy to his father in hopes of completing his work faster and spending more time with him at home. King Romero had always wanted his son to be happy, so he gave him power and authority, but it seemed that Roman had chosen the wrong path. However, the bravery that Roman had recently displayed filled King Romero with hope for his future once again. Later, when Roman came to see his father, the king questioned him about his actions in destroying the Blood of Fangs, a notorious band of bandits that had been terrorizing the kingdom for years. Roman explained to his father the details of his plan and how he had successfully led his troops to defeat the Blood of Fangs, ensuring the safety and security of the kingdom and its people. King Romero listened to his son's tale with pride and admiration, marveling at the courage and leadership that Roman had displayed. He realized that perhaps Roman had not chosen the wrong path after all, and that he had the potential to be a great leader and king. From that day forward, King Romero made sure to support and guide his son, grooming him to be the leader that the kingdom needed. And thus, under Roman's rule, the kingdom flourished and prospered, with the people living in peace and security. Roman, however, didn't want his father to have high hopes for him and was in a dilemma about whether or not to tell the truth. As he pondered, memories of his childhood flooded back to him when he was often beaten up by bullies. He remembered how he had picked up a rock one day and smashed it against the face of one of his tormentors, killing him in the heat of the moment. He grieved over the fact that he had never been loved by his parents like other children and how he had always had to prove his worth to them. But ultimately, he had reigned over them all, proving his worth to his father, the Heavenly Demon. Meanwhile, training was going on in the kingdom until it was interrupted by the captain as the king entered the training area. The captain then asked the trainees to have a duel with Roman Dimitri, but everyone took it as a joke to have a duel with such a coward. Moving 1 hour back into the story, Roman answered the king that he had defeated the Blood of Fangs. To not let Romero suspect his demon self, Roman explained that he had been secretly training as a swordsman. Roman wanted to prove himself to his father, which was why he had hidden everything from him. He also told his father that to break the bandits' whole gang's foundation, he had abducted their leader from their headquarters. Thinking about his son's bravery, careful decision-making skills, and abilities, King Romero was impressed with his son. The king then asked Roman to do him a favor and show him his true swordsmanship, the skills he had trained for secretly. King Romero truly wanted to see his son's true skills with his whole heart. Coming back to the present, none of the trainees wanted to volunteer as they were afraid of being kicked out if they won against the prince. But Captain Jonathan had a different opinion. He wanted someone with the best skills to spar with Roman Dimitri to not let the pride of the knights down. So he chose Chris, the vice captain of Dimitri Knights, as the one suitable to duel with Roman Dimitri. But Chris, having a pathetic and miserable image of old Roman, didn't want to have a duel with him because he believed that old Roman couldn't fight. However, since the captain of the knights had ordered him, he was left with no choice but to fight him. But, taking advantage of old Roman's perceived weakness, Chris asked for swords in the duel. As soon as the fight started, Roman blocked Chris's sudden attack, shocking him. Chris, being a swordsman, didn't hold back and charged at Roman with his sword, trying to beat him. But Roman dodged the attack smoothly, giving Chris no room to think. Roman told him that it was indeed a good warm-up for him and that now it was time for a real fight. Roman attacked Chris, pushing him into a corner and forcing him to resort to only defensive skills against Roman. But when he was about to lose against Roman, Chris started using his special power, where Jonathan tried to stop him from doing so as it was pretty dangerous. Chris used his power, 1-star aura. But even using his special power against him, Chris lost, as Roman was a heavenly demon, a Giga Chad, not a mere commoner. Previously, the story ended with the protagonist, Roman, easily defeating the vice captain of the knights. As the story unfolds, two knights are discussing Chris, who has been appointed as one of the deputy commanders of the Knights. Captain Jonathan and his newly appointed apprentice, Chris, are training with swords and discussing how, even at a young age, Chris was able to achieve the title of a 2-star Aura Knight and develop his mana core after only 6 months of training his body. The two knights also talk about how Chris became a 1-star in just a short period of 3 years and is a prodigy with great sword skills. Captain Jonathan, noticing Chris's fatigue, tries to stop the training. But Chris, determined, asks for Captain to train him again, showcasing his never-give-up attitude. Captain Jonathan praises Chris's abilities as a prodigy, but also notes his work ethic in describing Chris as a genius. Later in the story, Chris is defeated in battle against Roman Dimitri, leaving everyone in shock as to how a prodigy like Chris could be defeated by someone like Roman. However, what they don't know is that Roman is now a Giga Chad with demon powers. Chris, in pain, asks for Captain Jonathan's help. King Romero Dimitri, Roman's father, questions Captain Jonathan about his belief in Chris, his great 2-star young prodigy, and how he could be defeated so easily. Captain Jonathan is flustered and impressed by Roman's sword skills, questioning how someone could be so talented after only training for 2 years, whereas it seems to him that Roman has been secretly training for an eternity. He describes Roman as a genius at sword skills to King Romero Dimitri, regaining his belief in Roman Dimitri. Captain Jonathan states that Roman encountered all of his opponent's attacks with ease and was sharply focused on defeating them. This made Captain Jonathan fully believe in Roman's capabilities of defeating the vicious Blood of Fangs all by himself. Roman describes Chris's abilities as a great swordsman in Jonathan's point of view, but compared to himself, Chris's standard of fighting is at the lowest level. Roman then brutally damages Chris, comparing him to be weaker than the weakest in the Order of Demons. However, Chris's special power at the end fascinated Roman, making him curious about the powers in this world. On the other hand, his father, Romero Dimitri, is proud of his eldest son and describes him as a genius at sword skills. King Romero Dimitri calls Roman and tells him that his thinking about his future and accomplishing something for his own betterment made his father happy and proud. Romero Dimitri wants to give his son a reward befitting for Roman's accomplishments as a genius swordsman. Roman, taking advantage of this moment, asks his father to send him to war in the next 6 months. Romero asks him if he wants to get enlisted out of the war, but Roman denies it and tells his father to give him the authority to select his own team for the upcoming wars. Romero, shocked at his request, tells him to think about it again calmly. But Roman, being our determined protagonist, tells him that he will be going all by himself. Hearing this, King Romero declares that no one will interfere in his decisions. Roman asks for one more thing from his father, and due to his sudden growth, King Romero allows him to ask for anything. The clever demon inside of Roman asks to let Chris teach him the skill called Aura. Soon, Chris is talking with Captain Jonathan about how shameful he feels for losing against Roman, even after using the Aura. Captain Jonathan states that, even though he wants to decline the request, he cannot, but he can give him an offer. He wants Chris to teach him the Aura technique and keep an eye on Roman's sudden transformation from being a poor swordsman to a great one. The captain tells Chris that if he successfully completes his task, he will reveal all of his secrets to him. Chris is skeptical, unable to believe that the captain would reveal the secret of becoming a 3-star Aura Knight so easily. However, he ultimately agrees to teach Roman the Aura technique if the captain truly keeps his word. Meanwhile, Roman's servant, Hans, is praising him for defeating the deputy commander of knights in a sword fight, despite him only being a 2-star Aura Knight. Roman, unaware of what an aura is, asks Hans about it. Hans tells him that he has no clue, but suggests that it might be related to mana. Roman recognizes that the power of aura that Chris showed him in their fight is similar to the eruptions of energy that exist in their demon world. However, the way it is used in this world is different and inefficient, which confuses Roman. Roman smirked to himself, contemplating the fact that the inhabitants of this world had yet to discover the full potential of the mana power that resided within them. The following morning, Roman and Chris, both knights, began their aura training session together. It was evident that neither of them were particularly thrilled about the prospect of working with one another. Chris, despite his own internal turmoil, mustered the composure to begin the lesson by explaining the basics of aura to Roman. He explained that aura is a technique derived from mana power that develops within a knight. Magicians harness their mana to store magical powers in their circlets, while knights harness mana to strengthen their entire body with its immense power. He describes the historical origins of the aura technique, which was first developed by a man named Emperor Alexandro. Alexandro was the first person to understand that by storing mana throughout one's body, it could help to strengthen the entire body. Chris further explains that aura is simply a technique for harnessing the power of mana and expelling it outwards, causing a surge in one's abilities. He informs Roman that only a small number of individuals are able to develop the ability to sense mana within their body, and that it is extremely rare for someone to have this ability, as only one in thousands of those chosen as Aura Knights possess the capability to sense and control mana. Chris makes it clear to Roman that before learning anything about the power of mana, the first and most important step is to develop the ability to sense mana, which is a prerequisite for any further training. He taunts Roman by saying that it took him only 6 months to develop this ability, and that it may take Roman years to achieve the same level of mastery. Roman, not wasting any time, interrupts Chris and reveals that he already knows how to sense mana. Chris contemplates that it will not be an effortless task for someone like Roman, who has been perceived as intellectually lacking, to accomplish both winning a match and mastering the art of sensing mana. Nevertheless, Roman starts to cultivate his ability to sense mana with his heavenly demon powers, which he is already well acquainted with. Roman is resolved to comprehend the power of mana within himself in an honest and fair manner, as it is done by the inhabitants of this world. Chris imparts to him that the key to sensing mana is to focus on the rhythm of one's breath and concentrate on a single point in the body. He guides Roman that by doing so, he will be able to learn about the aura technique and, if successful, become a 1-star aura knight. As Chris is explaining the various ways in which aura can be manifested in weapons and the body to Roman, he is taken aback when he sees Roman generating a substantial amount of aura while boasting about his knowledge of mana. Roman ponders over the shortcomings of the usage of Kai in the present world, as compared to its utilization in his Murim world. In his Murim world, Kai was employed to eliminate impurities from within the body, whereas in this world, it is employed for different purposes. Roman perceives the Kai of the Murim world as raw power with a stronger sense, whereas the mana of this world is refined power with a lighter sense, which is why he finds it effortless to generate mana. Roman understands that the way the people of this world unleash the stored mana within them to attain immense power is highly inefficient for the body. Furthermore, Chris, being astounded by Roman's ease in manifesting aura, inquires about it. Chris becomes increasingly frustrated as it took him years to manifest mana and questions Roman about his secret and the truth he knows about mana manifestation. Chris becomes overwhelmed with questions about Roman's identity and the truthfulness of his claims, unable to fathom that Roman accomplished everything in mere seconds, while it took Chris a decade to achieve the same. Roman chuckles and tells Chris that the training methods he used for manifesting mana were incorrect. He explains to Chris that old-fashioned ways are not always the correct approach. Being a Giga Chad, Roman gives another fact check to Chris, who was always fixated on his goals and never doubted the training methods, and his unwavering belief in Captain Jonathan. Roman does not blame him for following the methods and putting in hard work, but not questioning the methods is a foolish thing as it is not smart work. Roman reminisces on his past life and compares it to the criticism he received from his father and others. Believing in Roman's facts, Chris requests him to reveal the secret behind achieving mana manifestation in a short period of time. The scene then shifts to a war where Beak, the heavenly demon, has defeated a certain man who is kneeling on the ground. As Beak asks for his retaliation, the person denies and admits his defeat. He has never seen such a strong personality with such strong Kai ever before. The person, like Chris, asks Beak the secret to becoming stronger like him. This rekindles memories of deja vu in Roman's mind as he compares that guy to the present world's Chris, who is also doing the same. This excites the heavenly demon or our protagonist Chad Roman Dimitri, who finds it intriguing, and the story continues. As the scene changes, a man who conquered the blood demon sect under one command is shown. This man also begged Beak for the secret of his great power, the heavenly demon. The two men are now fighting for control of the demon sect. However, Beak easily defeats the man, causing him to fall to his knees. Roman recalls how the man did not hold back his shame and begged him to teach the secrets of his greater power. With this, Roman compares Chris to the man he defeated in the past. Roman, being a Chad, denies giving Chris any secrets, making Chris even more anxious. Roman tells him that the best advice he can offer is that the methods of training he followed were inefficient. Roasting him, Roman says that even his life choices were wrong, and if he wants to find a solution, Chris needs to focus on observing Roman Dimitri's actions and learn from them. Roman tells Chris to observe him in the battlefield in 6 months, and if Chris manages to focus on him for a decade, Roman assures him he will surely find an answer to his problem. Moving on, Chris sits dejected in his room, reflecting on the shame and harsh feedback he received from Roman Dimitri. He remembers how everyone praised him for sensing mana in just 6 months, and how the captain also praised him after he became a genius 1-star aura knight after only 3 years. But compared to Roman, who accomplished the same feat in mere seconds, Chris feels more traumatized. He recalls Roman's words that his training methods were inefficient, and how his lack of questioning them amused Roman. Remembering his defeat, Chris musters up his courage and decides to do as Roman said. Soon, Chris goes to Captain Jonathan's place and tells him that he will become a subordinate of Roman Dimitri, and follow him onto the battlefield to become even stronger. Captain Jonathan knows something must have happened between Chris and Roman, so he questions Chris about it. For a moment, both of them stare at each other intensely. Will they fall in love? Seeing Chris's determination and understanding that he must have thought it through before deciding to follow Roman onto the battlefield, Captain Jonathan allows him to leave the Dimitri Knights and follow him, only requesting that Chris protect Roman Dimitri at all costs while he achieves his goal. As Chris departs from his position as vice captain of the Dimitri Knights, Captain Jonathan remembers his past and sees a little boy crying hard over his dead mother, who was killed in the battlefield. Captain Jonathan, understanding Chris's capabilities and his sad past, thanks him for being willing to go with Roman Dimitri. He tells Chris that with his presence, Roman Dimitri can no longer be called a moron. The captain emphasizes that Chris needs to be well prepared for the battlefield. He tells Chris that in order to survive the chaos of the battlefield, he needs to have a secret weapon of his own making. Captain Jonathan encourages Chris to follow Roman Dimitri and learn from him, but also to develop his own unique skills and tactics to become an even stronger warrior. Chris thrives with excitement and happily agrees to follow his master. As the scene changes to a restaurant or a bar, where some people are still not complimenting Roman's brave achievements, calling him a half-assed idiot who couldn't defeat the vicious Blood of Fangs all by himself. They even blame the Dimitri Knights, accusing them of planning everything to make Roman Dimitri succeed. During this demeaning of Roman, Kevin hears it all and gets shocked that Roman defeated the Blood of Fangs all by himself, as he pleaded to Roman. Kevin remembers that Roman only defeated the goons from the Blood of Fangs with a single branch, and that he is fully capable of defeating them all by himself, because he believes in his young master Roman. Kevin asks himself if Roman Dimitri did all of this because he requested him to do so, keeping his word. But as Roman is a noble, why would he go that far for someone like him? Thinking this, Kevin praises Roman. Meanwhile, the owner of the shop shouts at him not to daydream and do his task immediately. Moving on, Kevin still can't let it go, thinking that he also wants to be stronger like Roman, and fight for his people like Roman Dimitri did, even being a noble. While he thinks about getting stronger like him, Kevin believes that if he can meet Roman once again, he can surely get some tips from him. As if his thoughts were heard, Kevin finally bumps into Roman Dimitri coming from the front. Seeing Roman Dimitri suddenly, Kevin can't believe his luck and drops the carton of potatoes on the ground. Excited Kevin, not knowing what to say, questions Roman about why he is there. When Kevin comes to his senses, he kneels down in front of Chad Roman Dimitri, showing him gratitude for saving his family from the vicious Blood of Fangs. Roman tells him that it's not important, what's important is Kevin's health and how he has been in the meantime. Kevin replies that the Blood of Fangs no longer threatens them, and with the help of his servant, Hans, he found a fitting job that allows him to feed his family. While Kevin shows his gratitude for Roman defeating the Blood of Fangs, Roman tells him that what's coming next will blow his mind. Roman wants to offer Kevin something that will ensure he never faces any financial difficulties again, giving him a comfortable home, nice food to eat, and he will be able to live a lavish lifestyle like rich kids do. Roman tells him that to live a better life and a lavish lifestyle, he needs to live for Roman and be loyal to him. Hearing this, Kevin bashes his head on the ground in front of Roman and pledges to serve him and live his whole life being loyal to him. Kevin pledges to Roman that he will die for him if Roman commands him to kill anyone. He will do so as per his command. Kevin tells Roman that as long as Roman protects his family from danger, he can control his life as per the needs. Roman sees that Kevin has shed his blood for pledging his life, which reminds the heavenly demon of a crazed stallion from his past life. Roman describes that the crazed stallion was a guy who would fight against hundreds solely on a single command of his master. Roman praises him for not giving up until he finishes the job his master gave him, which amazes them, naming him the crazed mare. Seeing the devotion of Chris and Kevin, our Chad Roman is amused, thinking that it is worth investing his time on them. Further moving on, after taking Kevin to the palace with him, Roman tells his servant Hans to take good care of him and give him a tour of the castle, leaving Kevin in Hans's hands. Roman tells Kevin if he needs any help, he can visit him anytime in the library. Upon visiting the library, Roman starts learning about the Aura Knights from a book called The Path of an Aura Knight. As he reads, he finds out that in order to become an Aura Knight, one first needs to manifest aura, becoming a 1-star Aura Knight. To become a 2-star Aura Knight, one has to cut steel using aura power, and the intensity with which he cuts the steel will determine his rank. Once you reach the 3-star Aura Knight position, you will be treated as a higher command in the kingdom, just like Captain Jonathan. Roman further reads that there exists a 6-star Aura Knight in the Salamander Kingdom, but no one has ever heard of the existence of a 7-star Aura Knight. Even the top knights with aura power haven't reached the level of a 6-star aura knight. Roman compares the power level of Chris, a 2-star aura knight he fought, to that of Captain Jonathan, a 3-star aura knight, and concludes that they are only at the level of a second-class fighter. Roman wonders what the class of a 6-star aura knight might be, as it is known that achieving a 6-star rank as an aura knight means no longer being a normal human, but instead existing as a demonic figure. Roman learned about the immense power of a 6-star aura, which is so powerful that the flames from their blades flow over meters of distance, making an impact that a normal human is not capable of in this world. Roman reads that only 12 people in the world possess such immense power as to have achieved a rank of 6-star aura. These 12 individuals are considered on the level of royalty, regardless of their race or nationality. Due to their formidable powers, these rare 12 individuals with 6-star aura are famously known as the 12 Blades of the Continent. After gaining information about the aura and ranks of knights, Roman praises the 12 Blades as the strongest, as they have reached this legendary level even without efficiently utilizing Kai energy, which requires talent to do so. Roman also learns about magicians, similar to the Archmage in his past world. Archmages are warriors who have reached the 7th circle rank in the demon sect. Roman describes them as half-man, half-god walking disasters who can strike fiercely. Their single strikes can level the earth and cloud the skies, and with their enormous numbers, archmages can easily overpower 6-star aura knights. Roman is curious about the concept of magic, which only exists in the present world and not in the world of Murim. As the story progresses, Roman's servant Hans takes him to a workshop that was previously used by the old baron. Hans explains that the workshop is highly secure and even air cannot enter the place. Roman finds the workshop suitable for his training for the battlefield and instructs Hans to let him train there for the next week without any food or other supplies and to not let anyone enter the place. Roman makes it clear to Hans that if it is not extremely dangerous to his own people, no one should disturb him, or else Hans will be held responsible. Hans agrees to Roman Dimitri's command and leaves the workshop, allowing Roman to train in peace. Roman sits on the floor of the workshop and concentrates on harnessing his Kai energy. He reflects on how he has only been able to manifest a small amount of mana until now, but in order to use the powerful magic of his heavenly demon self as he did in the past world, he must start with the first step. Roman begins to enchant the first step of Heavenly Demon Magician and unleashes his power as a human. As he concentrates, he removes the impurities present within his mind and body. As he focuses his mana power throughout his entire body, Roman begins to bleed from his mouth, nose, and ears as he expels a large amount of impurities present in his body. Roman wants to regain all the strength he had as a heavenly demon in order to live his whole life in this present world and to protect his people. Roman explains that the first step, called human, is only the beginning of regaining the strength of a heavenly demon. As the week passed, the Dimitri family received a visit from King Viscount Lawrence and his daughter, Ms. Flora Lawrence, of the Lawrence Kingdom. The king asked a servant for Roman Dimitri's whereabouts, but the servant replied that Roman was occupied with important business. King Lawrence decided to wait for Roman's return while also apologizing to the Dimitri family for any mistakes made. The story then flashes back a few hours earlier in the Lawrence Kingdom, where King Lawrence learned that Flora and Roman had ended their engagement without informing him. Flora, with her head down, explained to her father that during her last visit to the Dimitri family, she had ended her engagement with Roman and was unable to follow her father's orders. Even though she tried to force herself, Flora could not marry someone she did not love and respect. Upon hearing this, King Lawrence was filled with anger and shouted at Flora, unable to understand how his wise child could make such a decision. He exclaimed at Flora, asking how she could do this after knowing the current condition of the Lawrence Kingdom, which was in danger of an upcoming attack from the Borco family that could cost them their territory. King Lawrence was scared as the Borco family was preparing for war and the Lawrence Kingdom was in heavy danger. He knew the importance of having the Dimitris by their side as they were the only ones who could fight the Borco family, which is why Flora's marriage with Roman Dimitri was so important for their kingdom. Ms. Flora, on the other hand, tried to defend herself by saying that the Lawrence Kingdom could not win by fighting on its own without the help of the Dimitri family. However, King Lawrence denied this, knowing that the Borco family was supported by the central government, which would lead to the Lawrence Kingdom losing its territory to the Borcos. King Lawrence reflected on the fact that the central government approving the Borco family to take loans without any returns was suspicious, and this was not just a war between families, but nations would be involved on a large scale. King Lawrence, frustrated by his daughter, told her that the Borcos would take everything from them, their land, honor, and even the beautiful Ms. Flora, famously known as the Flower of Lawrence. After getting a long lecture from her father, Ms. Flora now calmly thought over the issue and tried to set aside her pride of being the Flower of Lawrence for the sake of her kingdom. On the other hand, Hans grew anxious as Roman Dimitri had not come out of the workshop, making King Lawrence and Ms. Flora wait from morning until sunset. While Hans was thinking of how to get Roman out of the workshop, suddenly the gate of the workshop opened. Hans was shocked by the restless expression on Roman's face, indicating that something had happened to him. The scene then shifts to King Lawrence, who has determined that his daughter, Flora Lawrence, must marry Roman Dimitri in order to save their kingdom from an impending danger. Despite feeling uneasy about forcing his daughter to marry without love, King Lawrence sees no other option. He grapples with the moral implications of this decision, feeling guilty for potentially causing his daughter harm. Determined to confront Baron Dimitri himself, King Lawrence storms into the room where he is working and berates him for making their guests wait so long. King Lawrence's frustration boils over as he shouts at Romero Dimitri, accusing him and his family of being cruel to their guests. He never imagined that the Dimitri family could have been so heartless. King Romero, hearing King Lawrence's complaint, asks if he had made an appointment to meet him. King Lawrence retorts that Baron Romero never responded to their request a week ago, leaving him with no other choice but to come without an appointment. Baron Romero, unfazed by the complaint, coldly asks King Lawrence if he had anything else to say. King Lawrence, disappointed by the Baron's attitude, explains that he had come to share his frustration over waiting for half a day. Baron Romero reveals that Roman had informed him of his decision to break the arranged marriage with Flora the day Flora visited them. Despite scolding Roman for behaving like a disobedient child, Baron Romero seems unbothered by the situation. King Romero further explains that seeing his son's determination to not go through with the marriage and follow his own path left him speechless and unable to question him further. Baron Romero berates King Lawrence, asserting that the Dimitri family are the ones who have been wronged by the dissolution of the marriage, not the Lawrence family. He accuses King Lawrence of being the ones to initiate the marriage arrangement in the first place, and expresses his anger at their audacity to come and shout at the king of the Dimitri family after breaking the arrangement themselves. He slams his hand on the table in frustration, demanding to know why they couldn't have just waited a little longer before coming to confront them. Baron Romero explains that the Dimitri family had no desire to meet with them in the first place, and that their shameless behavior after breaking the engagement only served to further infuriate him. He makes Flora and King Lawrence feel ashamed of their actions, and tells them that they should not speak any further complaints. King Romero Dimitri then reveals that the Borco family had also proposed marriage to them a month before, and if they had accepted the Borco's proposal instead of the Lawrence family, the Dimitri family would have gained a portion of the Lawrence territory and support from the central government. King Lawrence is taken aback and questions Romero Dimitri as to why he declined such a favorable offer from the Borco family. King Romero Dimitri explains to King Lawrence that the Dimitri family already had power and wealth, and therefore saw no need to accept the Borco's offer. He goes on to say that his personal liking of the Lawrence family was another reason for declining the offer. Baron Romero tells King Lawrence that despite Roman's feelings for Flora, the flower of the Lawrence family, they still decided to face the Borco family's anger in war rather than accepting their offer. After hearing this, King Lawrence feels guilty for his behavior and regrets shouting at King Dimitri out of anger. He acknowledges that as a king, he should have maintained his composure. Baron Romero Dimitri, disappointed with King Lawrence and Flora, tells them that even if Roman and Flora were not a good match, they should not have underestimated the powerful Dimitri family. When Roman added the Dimitri surname to his name, he became a respected prince in the eyes of all. As King Lawrence scolds her, Flora is reminded of her past, when she was a student at the academy. She came from a small, insignificant family, the Joels, who were looked down upon by the other, more powerful and wealthy royal families. One day, when a young Joel broke a vase at the academy, a punishment committee was formed to discipline him for his small mistake. Flora, watching from the sidelines, felt empathy for the poor kid as his mistake was not a significant one. King Lawrence realizes the mistake made by the Lawrence family and apologizes to Baron Romero Dimitri for their wrong decision. Flora also comes to realize her place in the world and that the weak must always bow to the stronger. She apologizes to King Romero for her actions. This moment is interrupted when Roman Dimitri enters the room, fresh from a one-week training session. He has undergone a significant transformation in appearance, with a new haircut and a more rugged, toned physique. Both Flora and her father King Lawrence are shocked by Roman's new look. Roman reveals to his father Baron Romero Dimitri that he understands the implications of the union between their two families, and the potential consequences of the marriage. He tells his father that the Lawrence family only sees the Dimitri family as a means to an end, a way to secure their victory in the upcoming war against the Borco family. King Romero asks Roman if he still wants to pursue a relationship with Flora of the Lawrence family, despite his previous decision to break off the engagement. Roman tells his father that he doesn't care about what others might think of him as a fool of the Dimitri family. He just wants his potential partner to judge him based on her own personal opinion of him. He firmly tells his father not to interfere with his decision to end the engagement with Flora Lawrence and to let the broken engagement stay broken forever. That marks the end of this part of the recap of the series. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this video to help us bring you the next part of this exciting series. If I get a great response on this part 4, I'll be bringing you the 5th part as well. Leave a comment with the word New Roman to let me know you're excited for part 5 of the series. Till then, take care, I'll see you next time.